Am I muted? I'm going to start all over again. Watch me wind this back. Broadcasting from London, Ontario, Canada. Welcome. This is Journeys with the No Schedule Man. I'm Kevin Bolmer. We are here to celebrate and share the journeys of heart-centered entrepreneurs who have challenged themselves to act on their inspiration so they can expand and grow. Together, we explore their triumphs, challenges, thoughts, feelings, and lessons learned. I want to thank Harvey and Cheryl for jumping right onto our live stream to let me know that the mic was muted. Now, when you're listening to the recording, you'll never know that because I'm going to edit that part out. But if you jumped on the beginning of the live broadcast, well, haha, joke's on me. I'll just blame my lack of brain cells firing at optimum level because of the collective experience of the lockdown that we're in now. What I was saying before my mic was on was we've got a conversation for you today that I think that a lot of us are really going to find helpful. I hope so, because many of us are finding out that we're struggling with things that we've never struggled with before. We are in uncharted waters here in the environment with which we present this conversation, which is many weeks into the lockdown related to the coronavirus, COVID-19. So not only are we not getting out and about and socializing the way that we are used to, or if you're like me and you have a local fitness or health club that you enjoy going to, not just for the physical fitness and the wellness that nurtures, but to see friends and to socialize and to just sort of change the channel on what you're seeing. Now, some of us are isolated and are by ourselves or one or two other people. Some of us are so crammed close together with our family that we wish we could have a break. Some of us are trying to learn how to work in an environment that we're not used to working in while we question how it's going to be that we're going to continue working even going forward, and maybe oversee children at the same time who are also trying to figure out how to navigate their studies from a computer. And still others find their lives in absolute overdrive. The people that are, I'll use the blanket statement, essential workers, those who are busier now than ever, logging heavy hours and to a certain degree putting themselves at substantial risk just to keep what we still have going in our economy and in our communities moving for the rest of us. So as we all grapple with those various levels of challenges, certainly what I've found and what I'm hearing from a lot of other people, and what today's guest, Mark Regan, was just sharing with me before we started the broadcast, is that a lot of us are struggling. And a lot of us are struggling with things that we've never struggled with before or in the same way, and are searching for ways to feel better, to find some sense of relief and ease, to not judge ourselves too harshly while we navigate these really tricky waters, but also potentially, hopefully, employ this as an opportunity to consider how we want to come out of this, who we want to be and how we want to feel, and what are some steps that we can take, not entire mountains that we can climb in one leap, but what are some choices that we can make, and what are those choices that what are they based upon? Choices that we can make so that the next time we run into a big challenge, whatever that is, we'll be able to meet it in a place of more centeredness and consistent well-being. We're going to explore some of that stuff today. We're also going to explore the story of Mark so that you know a little bit more about who he is, who he helps, and how. And we'll see where it goes. So Mark Regan is going to join us. I'm going to introduce him to you in just a couple of moments. Mark is coach of champions. You can find out more about him at Mark Regan, REGAN. .ca, markregan.ca. He's a certified nutrition specialist. He's a certified strength and conditioning specialist. He's had over 25 years in the fitness and nutrition profession, and he's got a BA in kinesiology and highly educated in physical education as well. And he's just a really, really, really good dude, and he shares of himself quite willingly online as well. He does a lot of live videos on Facebook. And so he's somebody that you can maybe tune into and use him as a voice to help you through the rest of this situation and then moving forward. We're going to introduce you to Mark in just a couple of moments. There he is right there. This is episode number 105 of Journeys with the No Schedule Man. Before we bring Mark on, I just want to remind you, if you enjoy what you hear, what you see, take a moment and subscribe. It takes a moment to click. It's free. If you like listening, you can find us on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Google Play Music, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, any of those. If you like watching, the last 20 or so episodes have been video as well as audio, but they're all available on the YouTube channel, youtube.com/noscheduleman and facebook.com/noscheduleman. You'll find all of the most recent episodes as well. You can also find the entire archive at noscheduleman.com. Just click on the podcast page and you'll find us there. If you go to the website, sign up to my email list. I promise I won't spam you. If anything, I'm lax in sending enough things out, but I've gotten into the habit now of at least every couple of weeks sending some kind of inspirational email out that I call Letters from the Little Engine, because I think I can. Just trying to get up that hill together. You can find it at noscheduleman.com/email. I've been getting a tremendous response to some of those emails that have gone out over the last couple of months, and especially at a time like this. Let's communicate and connect. There's some cool things that'll come out to you as well when you sign up for the email list. It's absolutely free, and it's a great way for us to stay up to date. I want to say thank you to Diamond and Gold Treasures, Laura Ma, who's somebody that I treasure, a great person in small business here in the London area. She's located at 4330 Colonel Talbot Road in London, Ontario, offering some of the finest jewelry in the area, along with jewelry repair and custom design. You can find Laura on Facebook or at diamondsgold.com. These are the sponsors of the podcast, making it possible for us to bring this kind of conversation to you. Mo Mondays London is the inspirational event series that I host, or at least I used to, once a month here at the London Music Club. And today's guest, Mark Regan, was a speaker at Mo Mondays just a short time ago. You're not even seeing any of this, are you? There we go. Going through some technical challenges so far. There's a Diamond and Gold Treasures logo that I thought that you were seeing. And I apologize if you've been watching the video that I haven't been looking you in the eye for the last minute or so, because I thought that you were seeing this stuff here on the screen. Mo Mondays London, I'm sure we're going to get back to it, but you can find out more at momondays.com/London. Mulligan Realty Group, Ryan and his team, the kind of realtor that you deserve, from being available whenever you need them to genuinely caring about you and the service that you get. They do things differently at Mulligan Realty Group. I can't say enough about them. They're terrific people. Connect with them at mulliganrealtygroup.com, especially if you are thinking of buying and selling and now everything all seems like it's upside down because of this mess. Give Ryan a call. They'll help you out with what to do. Provincial Glass and Mirror, Brett and his team, things have kind of come to a bit of a grinding halt on the quote-unquote regular end of business, but they've been doing yeoman's work at getting some of the glass and plexiglass partitions put up to protect some of our frontline workers and those in essential services and keeping all of us safe. Hats off to Brett and his team at provincialglass.com. And if you're part of a business that needs that kind of service, please reach out to Brett and his team. They'll take care of you. We all still have insurance and financial needs. Now's a great time to ask questions about that and just do a little bit of discovery. Somebody that I can highly recommend to you is Carol Trickett, salt of the earth, gem of a human being. She offers insurance and investments for Canadians and newcomers to Canada, and you can learn more at trickettfinancial.com. And lastly, if you'd like to have more access to me, we have a fantastic online coaching community for heart-centered entrepreneurs and creative souls. We call it the Turtle Tribe. We have hours and hours and hours and hours of video workshops and trainings on matters related to mindset and marketing and just living your best life and experiencing more of what you desire and deserve. And you can find out more about that at theturtletribe.com. I'm going to stop flapping my yap and introduce you to the person that that we have created this occasion to be able to show to you. As Mark Regan joins us, I think I had you muted as well. That was a pretty good show at the beginning, Mark, to start off the podcast where nobody could even hear me. I hope you enjoyed that. I probably never sounded better. And how are you doing today?
I'm great. Thanks so much, Kevin. I'm really pleased to be here.
It's absolutely my pleasure, Mark. I feel like I should give a little bit more background. I mentioned about your background as a certified nutrition specialist and strength and conditioning specialist, but I should also make mention so that people know that I was reading on your website that over the last 5 years or so, that even just in this area of London, Ontario, Canada, you've helped over 500 men, women, and children learn how to take back their health. That combined, they've lost over 13,000 pounds and 14,000 inches of fat alone. That's how does that feel when you're able to empower people so that they can kind of put their own health back in their hands and see them really flower and blossom like that? What's that like from where you're sitting?
It's life-giving. For me, it truly is. I thoroughly enjoy when I receive those text messages where people are celebrating things they never thought possible. And so, Kevin, you talk about all of the weight loss and the inches, and of course, that's something that everybody can relate to. But to be honest with you, it's the other steps of progress and the changes that they undergo that really, really excite me. So, for example, when someone says, Mark, I'm fitting into clothes I haven't fit in years. I was at work the other day and I had 3 people come up to me and say how great I looked. When those kinds of things, and those are probably even more life-changing than looking at a number on a scale or a measurement with a piece of tape. It's something when other people are noticing, when you get feedback in ways you didn't expect, that I know, all right, they're getting it. They see that there's so much more to this. Or someone says to me, Mark, I haven't slept in years, and now I'm sleeping through the night. Powerful. Because they're starting to change their focus from looking at the visual, the things that everybody sees, right? The aesthetics, and they're starting to turn their mindset towards their health and seeing the real repercussions of caring for their health and how that is really empowering. So for me, the 13,000 pounds, all of the inches lost, the hundreds and hundreds of people I've worked with, that's just a small piece of the puzzle of the progress and many changes that so many people have felt.
Doesn't it come down to how do I wish to feel?
Absolutely.
How do I want to feel, right? And however that looks, and as we were talking about a few minutes ago before we started the broadcast, right now we're finding that a lot of us are finding that we're not really comfortable with how we feel. And one of the natural human tendencies, I think, Mark, is to grasp for something that we can do or achieve or try or stop doing that will help us feel better. But that we're finding ourselves in this situation where there's no one button that we can push that's going to alleviate that. It's a bigger picture, isn't it?
It absolutely is. And part of the issue, too, is we've lost the structure that we had in our lives. For all the people who've been laid off or are waiting for their businesses to reopen, perhaps they're even still working part-time online or full-time online, it's not the same. The structure of our days has totally changed. Kevin, how many times have you woken up in the morning and had to think to yourself, what day is it? Is it Groundhog Day? And so we really are really struggling. That's just the tip of the iceberg, right? It carries over to so many ways, and it dramatically affects our physical health and our mental health.
Yeah, it's I feel really strongly that we, and this is a kind of a reckless generalization, but we as humans, at least in this North American society, seem to default toward looking at things outside of ourselves, observing others, and then thinking, well, I should look like that, I should do that, I should achieve that, or I should have this. And then once I do, then I'll be okay. And what I can share from my own experience is that I've tried all that. I did. I'm very diligent about it for about 40 years, and it didn't work. And it was only when I stopped doing all that. I still look at other people like yourself, for instance, as positive models who have character traits that I admire and aspire to learn more about and maybe take on. But aside from that, where I have found the biggest transformation and the most freedom has come is by reversing that field and looking inside. What's your experience been along those lines?
I'm constantly on the first thing I teach people, and it's not how to lose weight, it's how to work on their mindset. So they have to really look inside themselves and ask themselves some questions. For example, what is your why? And your why can't be because I want to look like that guy, or I want to have muscles like that, or I want a six pack, because that doesn't carry you very far. Everybody wants to lose weight. Everybody wants to be more fit. Everybody wants to be healthy. Everybody wants to have a movie star athlete's body, correct? But those aren't true to yourself. You just said it. You have to be true to yourself. So I really ask people, I want you to write down all the reasons why you want to look and feel your very best, be more healthy. And it's not truly just about you, it's about the other people around you and how you interact with. When you're healthy, how are you a better version of yourself that really empowers other people to be healthy too? And so that's kind of turning that camera to another angle and allowing them to look at that as well. So the very first sessions I ever have with people aren't about how to lose weight or how to get more muscle. And it's really about what's going on between your brain. Let's look at where you're at, and become in contact with yourself. Really know yourself well.
Earlier today, the day that we're having this conversation, I was watching a YouTube video that was a clip from one of Joe Rogan's podcasts. I think it was Laird Hamilton he was talking to, and they were just talking about breathing, and how we don't know how to breathe. And when you were talking about having that chiseled physique or that athlete or movie star's body, there's a perfect example, I think, Mark, of something that many of us maybe think that we want to have or should aspire to. But in the case that I'm just mentioning, this fellow was suggesting, well, when you're breathing properly, I mean, your rib cage should expand. That when you've got this, you work so hard that you've got this 6 or 8 pack abs that people sometimes aspire to, you've actually constricted, like you can't properly diaphragmatic or breathe diaphragmatically, which is, now we're getting into autonomic nervous system and all of this sort of stuff. But something as simple as, well, now is an opportunity for us to even sit in or sit down for a bit and just learn how to use our breath to cope with a situation like this lockdown.
Oh, absolutely. You may see if you've been watching social media, there are far more people sharing meditation online.
Yeah.
There are far more people sharing breathing techniques, simple yoga, all of that, because they're so fundamental to our health without even moving, just sitting quietly, peacefully, obviously working on the brain and reducing cortisol and the stress hormones. But as you said, getting that oxygen and that life-giving breathing. People don't understand that when they're stressed, they hold their breath. Have you ever been in traffic when things are a little chaotic, things are crazy, and you sit back for a second and realize, how long have I been holding my breath for?
Yeah.
Right? All those stressful situations. Well, this is an extended version of a traffic jam we've all been in for 5-6 weeks now. So how long has it been that we've been holding our breath? Yeah, absolutely.
That's a great analogy, an extended traffic jam. It was, I guess, 2008, 2009, somewhere in there. So I'm just almost 46 now, and it's 2020. So you can do the math. But I could not stand up without a cane. I was in such horrific lower back pain with a pinched sciatic nerve and herniated discs right at the bottom, the base of my spine, L5S1. And what I learned about that was how much tension and stress I gather in my shoulders, my neck, and my back. And what I'm saying is, and I'm not trying to be critical, but I did that to myself. And I did it, Mark, trying to suck it up, to be responsible, to keep pushing, to cope, to be that guy who is, when the going gets tough, the tough gets going. And I'm saying this not to make it about me, but because I think that there are people, especially right now in this lockdown, who feel like they've got a bag of bricks on their back, and that our only natural response is to think, well, then I have to push harder. To do the right thing. My experience has been that that's not always the answer. What's your experience been?
The other term I use is embrace the grind. You may have heard of that one too. That's big with athletes. And I've worked with many athletes over the year. And for example, when we work with a professional athlete who plays an 8-month season and longer, they absolutely embrace the grind. That's their mindset, right? And it wears on you. And we're not professional athletes. We don't have that mindset. We certainly don't have the support systems that they do around them to allow them to embrace the grind so much. And there's a problem with that because it comes with an all or nothing mentality, right? There's no progress over perfection. There's no 1% at a time. There's no being kind to yourself. And we all have to be kind to ourselves during these periods, and this period in particular. But that all or nothing mentality, they put the blinders on, and in the end, people with that mentality crash because they don't have a plan B. There's no escape. And that's one of the things I love to share with people too in my programs. This is not an all or nothing. This is progress over perfection. This is being kind to yourself. This is including areas like, hey, you want to have alcohol in your plan because you need to have a drink? Well, let's work alcohol into your plan. Let's celebrate food. Let's celebrate life, right? I'm not expecting people to be perfect. And when we take that lens off and give people the ability to make mistakes, forgive themselves, and stay in the moment and learn from it, that's when true progress occurs and growth happens.
I wonder if, before we dive too much further, if it would be valuable to go back into your story a little bit so that people can understand you a little more and why you're so passionate about what you do. I'm curious because I only got to hear a kind of a 10-minute version in Mo Mondays London, which was great. But let's go back into your story a little bit, Mark. What's made you so passionate about this? Where do you remember a really keen awareness and interest in your overall health and well-being becoming a really front of mind issue for you?
It happened when I was 5 years old.
Really?
Yes. I know that so many people have gone through life without serious illness, spending considerable time in the hospital, all of those kinds of, and those are the things that are kind of wake-up calls, right? Some people just wait until the doctor says, you're in bad shape, it's time to make your health happen. Well, in my case, that happened probably when I was 5 years old. And from 5 to 10 years of age, I struggled considerably with all sorts of challenges. When I was 5 years old, I had a ruptured appendix. Just woke up in the middle of the night in terrible pain, excruciating pain, a fever, sick to my stomach, all of those things. Back in the day when your family doctor would make a house call, our family doctor lived right on our street. How convenient was that? And he came up the street at, I think it was 6:30 in the morning, after my mother and father had called him personally, and he knew what it was within 5 minutes of seeing me, and they rushed me to the hospital. And when I got into the hospital, my appendix had ruptured. It had burst. That's not good. If you know anyone who doesn't have immediate surgery with a ruptured appendix, it releases all of the toxins and poisons from your digestive tract into your bloodstream. It's fatal. And so here I was at 5 o'clock, 5 years old at probably 8 o'clock in the morning, rushed into surgery. And I was not very happy. Needless to say, when I came out of that surgery, I was a very unhappy person. I had intravenous in both arms. I had tubes in my nose. I had all sorts of machinery all around me. As a 5-year-old, I was scared to death. And that entire experience was marked by 2 weeks in the hospital, hooked up to all those machines. And in the middle of that whole experience, in the children's section of St. Joseph's Hospital, it must have been 10 o'clock at night. It was dark out. I was crying, as I had most of the time I was in the hospital, in pain and scared and alone. And a priest came to the end of my bed, and I must have looked really, really rough. I must have frightened him, because he handed me a prayer card and said some prayers to me, and off he went. And that priest actually was friends with my parents, who actually knew that I was in the hospital and had come up to visit different people, and made a stop in my room, and months later came to see how I was doing at the house, and of course said to me, gosh, Mark, I thought you looked really, really rough, and you were just sobbing. I felt so bad for this little 5-year-old boy. And those are the kinds of things, of course, as a 5-year-old, they're playing on my mind. And I remember getting out of the hospital saying to myself, never again. I'm not going to get sick ever, ever again. And wouldn't you know it, in one of my follow-ups, I was diagnosed with mononucleosis. And you don't feel very good with mono. No energy, sluggish, your spleen is swollen. So no playing, no running around, no going outside with your friends when you're 5 and 6 years old. And that lasted the better part of a year. And so once I got through that and life started to become more normal, I thought, here I go back for another checkup with the doctor, and I have a hernia. And a hernia is, of course, a rupture of the lower abdominal wall. And again, it means surgery. And back then, the surgery was much more invasive. So it meant another week in the hospital, another surgery, another week of me thinking, why me, poor me. I tell you, when I get out of this hospital, I am never coming back. Lo and behold, I then got chickenpox and I got the mumps. And the next year to 2 years, not feeling very well. Finally, by the time I was almost 10 years old, to top it all off, I had my favorite bike. All the kids in the neighborhood, this is the 1970s, and kids as they were with those the big banana seat bikes and the high handlebars. And we like to go over all our friends making jumps. We'd take bricks, pieces of wood, and jump on our bikes right over top of all of our friends. And I was kind of the leader in all of that, the daredevil. And one night we brought out the friends and some family, and all my friends wanted to share how I could ride my bike and sail over 4 of my friends lying side by side. So I went faster than I ever had, flew over all 4 of my friends, but came down with a thud, had the handlebars twist out of my hands, went end over end, and the handlebars went right deep into my lower abdominal wall, of course, causing another ruptured muscular section of my wall, of my stomach, another major hernia in this case. This was a good one. And back into the hospital for more surgery. And then, of course, every time when I had surgery, and especially with those ruptures and the deep invasive surgery and sewing up, it's not just the surgery you have to get through, it's the recovery and months of being cooped up in the house, stuck watching my friends run around, being able to go out and watch them play. And by the time I was 10 years old, I said, never, ever again. I promise you, I'm going to do everything in my power to stay healthy. No other little boy or girl deserves to go through this. I don't like hospitals. I don't like doctors. I don't like any of it. So I'm going to take care of my health. Well, that's when things really started to change for me, Kevin. Things really turned when the focus wasn't on my health, but it became the health of my mother. When I was 10 years old, my mother, who had been a lifetime smoker since she was very young, and I have 7 siblings, there are 8 of us, and my mother had a heart attack. As would be expected, she started smoking when she was 14. She was now 40, and 25 years of smoking had caught up to her, and she had a heart attack, and she was rushed into University Hospital because at University Hospital they had a brand new cardiac ward, and my mother had to go in for double bypass surgery. 2 of her arteries to her heart were completely blocked, and she had to go in for double bypass surgery. She was actually only the 2nd person here in London in that new cardiac ward to have to go in for that invasive major surgery. And Kevin, unlike today where you get out in 3 or 4 days after having bypass surgery and off you go, back then it was a huge, huge trauma. She was in intensive care for months. And as a little boy, I wasn't able to see her back then. We weren't able to go in. I have older siblings who were old enough to be able to go in and see my mom. I wasn't. So I got the old Polaroid pictures of her. I got to talk a couple times on the phone to her. Those are my younger brother and sister. But at 10 years old, I was scared to death that I wasn't going to see my mom. And so you can see the impact on my life at a very young age, how illness really, really had changed the course of my life. And in this case, the course of my mother's life. Well, she came through that. She was able to get back on her feet, survived the surgery, and it was really a tale of success and a testament to the doctors and this pioneered surgery that was going on at University Hospital. But then she got cancer. And she had to then go through all of the treatments and radiation and chemotherapy for her cancer. And again, this little woman who's little, and she was very small, a mighty woman in a small package, having 8 kids, taking care of the family, and she fought through cancer. And there she was, right on, here we go. And then beyond that, the next big hurdle and challenge became COPD, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, emphysema. And my mother's breathing became a real challenge. And that, I think, of all of the things, has had the most lasting impact on everything I do. Because my focus was always on, I don't want to get sick. I don't want other kids to be sick. No one should go through this. But then I watched for years my mother struggle with her health. And it could be, we had a pool in the backyard. If it was a warm, beautiful summer day, my mother couldn't go outside because of the humidity. She couldn't breathe. If it was a winter day, she could not go out. Even just the walk from the front door to the car just wiped her right out. It was as if someone was suffocating her from the cold air. She couldn't breathe. And then if it was windy, so if it was a windy day and it was breezy, it took away her breath. And she was on oxygen full time. So my memories were of my father following her, constantly checking on her oxygen tanks, she needing a walker, constantly sitting down. And by this time in my teens and into my 20s, I had taken this daredevil boy on the bike to become a really determined athlete. And I was very fortunate. I played athletics in different sports at a very high level, from AAA hockey to representing London in baseball to playing high. But all of them were tinged with my mother's illness. Playing hockey, if the arena didn't have an indoor area, think about it, 1970s, 1980s, if the arena didn't have an indoor area where the parents could sit and stay in the warmth, and my mother could get into the arena without going through the cold, those were all limitations on having her be able to come to my games. If I was playing baseball, again, too hot, too windy, she wasn't able to come to my ball games. And then finally with football, my lasting memories of football were my father would often drive her to my games, and he would park close to the field where she could see the game and she could see me play. And that was most noted when I played football at Western and played in the old stadium, in JW Little Stadium. And my dad would make arrangements with the maintenance staff to be able to pull the van inside the stadium at the one end zone. And so during warm-ups, like an hour before game, and we're out there warming up in the stadium, and the stadium's starting to fill, my dad would pull into the end with the van, and it was cool because some of the guys on the team that I played with knew that was my mom, and they said, "Hey, Regs, your mom's here." Kind of, make me feel good. It was bittersweet, right? There's my mom. There she is, right in the end zone, close to the action. And she would sit there, and it was bittersweet because there she was at my games, close to the action at one end of the field. Meanwhile, up in the stands, in that old stadium, they didn't have a place where you could get someone up in a wheelchair. And again, she was limited by warm days, cold days, windy days. And she couldn't get into the sections reserved for all the Mustang parents. And so while all of the other guys' parents were together, my mom was down. And there were very few times that she really got to sit and be with all the other parents in any considerable way. There were 2 games in particular I remember when she was a big part of my play at Western and feeling really good that she was able to take part in it. One of them was at McMaster University. They had ramps installed in the stadium. It was one of those perfect fall days, mid-teens, nice sunshine, no wind. And so my mom and dad drove up to Hamilton to watch us play. And there she was. They got her into the stadium. She was up sitting in her wheelchair in an area right next to where all the parents were. And for me, I had a good game. I scored a couple touchdowns, so that was exciting. And being able to go after the game, out of the dressing room, and there's my mom and dad, and all the other parents gathered around. What a fun time. And then the biggest, this really it's just sunk in with me, was my final game of football. And for anybody out there who's played the game of football, you know that it's not something you dabble in. You can play it in high school or little league. You can play it if you're good enough and play in university. But once that's done, if you don't play professionally, it's over. It just comes to an end. Nobody's playing pickup football and equipment. And my final game of wearing the equipment and playing as a player was at Rogers Centre, Skydome, in the Vanier Cup in 1989. And we were victorious over the University of Saskatchewan. What an amazing way for me to finally win it, because we'd been there 3 times in my 5 years, and we finally won it. It was such a huge accomplishment for the senior guys on the team. There were probably a dozen of us who were in our 5th and final year, and I was at the Faculty of Education at Althouse College at the time, so I was really blessed to be able to get that 5th year in. And at the end of the game, we were told as we were in the dressing room celebrating, hey, the parents are all waiting upstairs in this special section of Rogers Centre that was reserved by the university for all of the parents. And you have to understand, of course, it's an indoor stadium. So my mother and father were able to drive in under the stadium. My dad had taken her up in the elevator. She was able to sit with all the parents in that section, in those box seats, watch the game. And what was really cool is we came up, the entire team came up together. We got all the guys up off all the elevators and come up the way with the Vanier Cup trophy. And as we walked towards the parents, I was fortunate as a senior athlete, senior on the team, to be able to lead the way with the trophy next to me. There was my mother. And my mother was in her wheelchair with my dad behind her. And all the parents gathered around, of course, huge ovation, lots of hugs. And for me, it was so fulfilling, but it also typified, it's marked me, my passion to help other people not only experience great health, but to help them inspire others to live their best health too, because I wouldn't ever want any little boy or little girl to struggle the way I did. I wouldn't want them to watch their mother or father or someone they care about struggle the same way. So it has really been ingrained in me that I desperately want to help other people try to live and be the healthiest they can.
Thank you for sharing all of that. It's a tremendous story. There are a couple things that I would like to share that I have observed from what you've just said that I'd like to point out to anyone who's watching and listening with us now, because I wonder if you picked it out as well. A couple of things. First, I wonder if you're watching and listening, how many times, Mark, you said to yourself, never again. It wasn't just one time, right? Where you're talking about, I made some notes here, an appendix, mono, another surgery, chicken pox, mumps. What a lovely childhood you enjoyed there. And then the banana bars, acrobatics, and the hernia. And it sounds like at each of those stages, you certainly had reason to tell yourself never again. I offer that forth for anyone who is taking part in this conversation. How many times you have said that to yourself, and are you judging yourself because you continue to say it? My experience has been, you just, when that wall is something that's important to you to try to get it to come down, you say it as many times as you have to until that sucker comes down. We can maybe come back at that. But here's the other thing that I wanted to point out, and then I'm going to ask for your observations on these, Mark. You mentioned about how your mom was a lifetime smoker. You've also talked about how you are passionate about helping people so that they're not suffering. And I'm not sure if that's the exact word that you use, but it's the word that I'll use. I think that a lot of us are suffering and we don't know, and we're looking for ways to stop suffering. And here's the point that I'm trying to make. Having a habit that is not good for you does not make you weak. Sounds to me like your mother was an absolute warrior. 8 children, beats cancer. The amount of energy that it would have taken for her to continue to live that lifestyle, and as much as it meant to you to have her at those events, I just want to invite people to think about, when your back hurts, or you got a bad blister on the bottom of your foot, or you got an awful headache, that life is fucking miserable. So imagine the amount of energy that it would take for your mother to live through those limitations and continue to choose to move forward, to enjoy as many experiences as she could with her family. My point is that I feel like a lot of us are very hard on ourselves because of the habits that we have, because of that word should or could. And it's a really fine line, isn't it, Mark, between maybe being aware of things that we have the power to change that could perhaps improve the way that we feel, versus really focusing on the things that we're proud of, that mean the most to us, that can give us a sense of positive momentum, that once we get that train chugging in that direction, well, now we can start to hook engines onto it and develop some good habits. What does that mean from where you're sitting and the people that you work with to try to help them improve?
And that's a great question, especially right now. You're right. So many people are struggling with the challenges and not seeing the opportunities. And again, that's a mind shift. That's a mindset. People constantly focus on the things they're not good at, the things they're not good at doing, the things they don't have. And right now, we all have incredible challenges. I don't have the gym I go to. You don't have the gym you go to. We all have to be innovative and creative to make our health happen. But so many people don't see the opportunity to be creative. They only see the challenge, and that's where their focus solely is. You're right, Kevin. Look at my mother and the challenges and how she overcame them. So what's happening with me right now, clearly I'm not there to give people one-on-one advice where we're face-to-face. I'm directing you with your exercise. And there's something to be said about close contact. Here you and I are sharing this experience across the internet, and it's powerful, but it's not a true replacement for being in person and that connection that happens. And so people see that as, oh, it's just not the same. I can't do it. I've had so many people reach out to me for help. I explain to them what we're doing, and they're like, well, how about I wait till when we can actually see each other face to face? And again, why would they say that when they need my help now? Because really they're processing all the challenges. They're not processing the opportunities. So for many people who reach out to me for help, we start the dialogue. I share with them how it's going to go. And then they start to do this as I'm talking to them, and suddenly they're gone.
He's getting away on us.
And I will message them, I'll reach out to them, and they've disappeared. Why is that? Yeah. They allowed all of those negative thoughts. They saw all the things they can't do, overwhelming all the things they absolutely can do. And as you said, it's mindset, it's change of perspective. That's why I like to start with that, of course. But also, once we get them going and we focus on all the positives that they're doing, they start to realize, hey, I can eat this. And they start to experience the health benefits, which can come right away. But, by the way, they can come very quickly. And they start to see it themselves, feel comfortable. I call it getting in behind the driver's seat with your health. Most people are sitting in the passenger seat, and the car is just going wherever. And you've totally lost control. You can't press the buttons. You can't stop or start. You can't steer. I get people back in behind the wheel, and slowly they learn how to drive their health. It's incredible how powerful it is. And then all the things they can't do, they don't become the focus. The focus becomes on all the great things they're doing and more.
Isn't it? I love the word that you shared, perspective. That's one I use a lot as well. Because I feel like, again, I'll use myself as an example. How I was for most of my life, I was trying to do all the right things and live the right way and responsibly. And Mark, I would say that I didn't know that I wasn't happy. I just thought that that's just the way life was. Mm-hmm. And so when you would see people who are in, great health and maybe doing things that they love doing, and they are seeing their experience from a completely different perspective than someone who is suffering and doesn't even maybe really realize, or realizes that they are, and they're again looking for that action they can take or that button to push that can help them stop suffering. And then when they can't find it, they judge themselves even more harshly, and then the whole spiral just continues to get more and more intense. But I think that perspective thing is it's huge, because when you're caught in a habit, in an addiction, in a lifestyle that's not of your choosing, or just in observing the way things are, but having come to a point, however you arrive at it, where you're thinking, I'd like for things to be differently, or to be different. I'd like them to be better. How fair do you feel it is to say that it takes a really kind of heroic leap to trust somebody like yourself, to go like, I can't, maybe through you, I'm observing that you are living in a way that I don't perceive myself to be. Like, I can't see it. And I don't even think I can do it, except that there's enough of me that sees that it's maybe possible. Do you see what I'm getting at? There's a leap there into believing in something that you can't yet see.
I agree. Here's the other thing. Look at you see when you see me, Kevin. You see someone who is fit, right? It is what it is. Fitness and nutrition are a part of my life. I have to look the part. So you see someone who think, wow, that guy looks fit. He looks like he really takes care of himself. Oh, I'm not like that at all. And so people just see me as the fit guy. So one of the things I like to do, I really try to impress upon people, is don't look at me, because my experience started when I was 5. Everything started when I was 5 years old. I am who I am, and my perspective and my health has been totally different than yours, and I appreciate that. So look at some of the people I can share with you. So I love to share my testimonials from other people I've worked with who are just like them, who may have seen themselves as lost, not knowing where to go, have tried every diet out there, have tried exercise with no success, and now they feel broken down, and yet I've been able to show them realistic, reasonable ways to make their health happen and sustainable in a balanced way, right? Take the blinders off, progress over perfection. This is a process that you need to enjoy every step of the way. And suddenly when I'm talking to someone new and I say, I really want you to take a look at some of the transformation stories I have on my website, or I want to take a look at my Facebook page. For example, I shared the journey of a gentleman this week who was down 34 pounds, and he started the week before we all went into self-isolation. And so I shared his story, and his isn't one of being stuck indoors. His is one where he's an essential business provider, and his business is going crazy. And so he's doing 12-hour days. It's off the charts. So we were just able to create a situation for him that was manageable with his food, with his exercise, with his mindset, and he's down 34 pounds. So when I share the story of somebody else that isn't the fit guy, that other people can relate to, they start to breathe, they can relate to it, and then they look at me and said, well, can you do for me what you did for him, or do for her? And I said, absolutely, let's go.
I'll give you another perspective on the fit guy thing. Is that maybe I see somebody like you, or it could be anybody. They're healthy, they're happier than I perceive myself to be. And I've had lots of these thoughts over the course of the years as I've worked on myself. And some of the thoughts that come through my awareness are things like, I bet he's not going home at night and drinking beer. But, so if I want to be like him, I've got to stop. And I don't think I can. That was something that was part of my story that I overcame. Or, I bet that person doesn't, go to the gym and then come home and eat 6 cookies. But the thought is, but I don't think I can not do that. I have found it to be so intimidating. What goes on here, again, the mindset stuff of, I can't eat anything that I like. I've got to push myself, and that I'm going to be uncomfortable with what I put my body through in terms of exercise. People talk about things like meditation and breathing. I can't even sit still for 60 seconds without feeling uncomfortable. but it's almost like you can't get there from there. That's the perspective thing that I think I was talking about, where the tendency when you're ramped up like that is that you're supposed to push yourself harder to force yourself to change. Whereas maybe I'll turn it into a question this way. How are you able to get people to see that it's just as much, if not more so, about allowing things to go well as forcing them to? Because again, when you're stuck in it, you can't see it. But then once you start to get just a little bit of positive momentum from wherever you are, it starts to pick up on itself, doesn't it? And the desire for the things that are holding you back, they just fall away. You don't have to think about it, but you've got to get that train rolling in the right direction. How do you work people through that?
It's support. It's absolutely, it has to be a strong support system, and you have to have an accountability system, right? You said, oh, I can't stop eating cookies, or I can't eat that healthy all the time. It's impossible. So there you go. Progress over perfection. That's a big one with me. I tell people right away, so have your cookies. Is a couple cookies on a Tuesday night going to destroy the rest of your life? I say to people, how long do you plan on living? 30, 40, 50 years still? A couple cookies on a Tuesday night in April 2020 isn't going to change your life dramatically. It's not who you are, and it's not where you're going. It's one small, tiny step. So we will work to the point where you're not interested in eating 6 cookies. You can still eat 1 or 2, absolutely, because it's not going to have that dramatic impact on your health you think it is. And the other support is, I compare it to riding my bike again. Everybody has learned to ride a bike. When you learn to ride your bike, you didn't get on the bike and someone just pushed you from behind and off you went. You pedaled madly and hoped you didn't fall off. No, all of us went through that point where somebody was running along with us, holding the back of that seat and steering the handlebars.
Yeah.
We all went through that. And this is very similar when it comes to your health. It's like riding a bike that you've never been on if your health has never been important to you. And you look at other people riding the bike and it looks completely impossible. How do they not just fall over and topple over? Well, as you go along and I'm holding the back of that seat and I'm steering with you and giving you confidence, and you gradually start to, it's like that gradual release of responsibility. We say that to kids in education. We're going to release the responsibility. Well, I release the control as they show they're able to do it without me steering that bike anymore or steering the plan anymore. And suddenly, like riding the bike, they're doing it all by themselves and looking at all the success. And like riding a bike, you look at how far you've come, and it's amazing because people will look and text me or message me or call me, or we'll do a Zoom or some other form of social media where we're chatting and meeting, and they'll say, I can't believe this is me. This is incredible. And it just it's that get the ball rolling, right? Progress one step at a time, because 1% a day leads up to incredible change over really, in this case, I showed you the example of the gentleman who over 8 weeks has lost 34 pounds, and he looks back and goes, what just happened? And that's the kind of progress I really try to instill in that mindset with people.
Have you ever seen the video of the guy? I think he did, I want to say it's Diamond Dallas Pages. He's got his own form of yoga, I think, that he calls DDPY or something like that. And that's the extent that I know about it. I've seen him interviewed, but that there was this one fellow that was in the military, and like his back was shot and was supposed to never be able to walk again without braces and whatever else. And the transformation that he went through going through fitness and yoga and nutrition is it's extraordinary, isn't it, Mark? The body's ability to be able to heal and become well. One of the things that I've really investigated over the last couple of years is the idea that well-being is our natural state. That's our neutral, natural state. That it's these other things with our minds and what we put in our bodies and the stressors that we take on, and that it all can become, once we start to get off track, a little bit of a toxic soup, but that the body is ready and willing and wanting to heal and be well. Isn't it?
It sure is. Think of the lives we lead compared to everybody who lived on this planet for the last, let's go 100,000 years. Let's say that. How did they survive when they didn't have heating, didn't have cooling, didn't have plumbing, didn't have food in a fridge or in a cupboard? Or here we are, sitting through COVID-19, really, really stressed. Imagine if we were thrown back in time with every other human being who had to survive. Survival and thriving in any condition is built into us. So as soon as you start to do the right things with food, with movement, with sleep, with stress reduction, your body's going to reward you. It's going to say, yeah, do that again. Do that again. This is working. It'll show you in so many ways. But I think today, because we live in a world of instant gratification, everything happens so quickly. I'm glad that we were born in a time before the internet, in a time before video, and in a time before instant messaging and texting and all the rest. Because I think it's created in us a reality that we can survive through a lot, that we're not soldiers to our phones, or right, we don't have to surrender to our phones, that in us we have the power to take care of ourselves in a genuine way, in a real positive way. And it may take longer than a text. It may actually mean going to meet someone to talk to them or hang out with them in a clearly physical distancing sort of way that has those real healthy positive connections. So in all of us, we need to slow down. We need to realize that things take time, a little bit slower, especially when it comes to your health, than sending a text and expecting an immediate results. But boy, oh boy, are those results lasting and powerful and life-changing.
And little becomes big, doesn't it? And it works both in a positive direction and a negative direction. This is why, I put a turtle beside everything that I do. You can go ahead and dart around like the hare chasing after the latest thing. But I will outlast you, because I'm in for the long haul. And when you think about how quickly the calendar spins and how fast the days go by, when we're looking for that result, it seems kind of a mountainous leap, but boy, oh boy, the days add up fast, don't they? And when you look at it that way, my experience has been, Mark, that you feel more a sense of accomplishment and fulfillment in those little steps, each little sip of water, each little awareness that pops up that didn't used to be there, that tells you, okay, step away and just breathe for a bit. Each noticing of that voice that says, I'm going to put down what I'm doing here and I'm going to go out for a walk, because when I come back, I'm going to be refreshed and I'll work less, but I'll get more done at a better. And that's the positive momentum that starts to build, isn't it?
Yeah, it's incredible. That positive momentum, it becomes a norm. It becomes the reality. It's not something, you talk about short-lived success and people slide back to old habits. So for example, people go on a detox where they cut out all their carbs, they cut out all their calories, and they get on the scale after a week and they're down 10 pounds and they're thinking, yeah, but they can't sustain that. And they go back to their old habits. And really, that's not a measure of success, that 10 pounds for a short period of time, because true success takes lasting, sustainable, continuous baby steps and efforts. There's that 1% at a time, that progress over perfection, that learning and change. And what I love about it is when I work with people and they see those changes continue, is they realize, hey, I can do this. This is sustainable. Life may throw curveballs at me, but I can still take care of myself and make my health happen without expecting perfection, and without it may have some hurdles that I have to go over, like COVID-19 that I've never faced before, but I can still do this because it wasn't just an instant gratification thing. It came with all sorts of levels of accomplishment and learning.
I love that. I've got a few direct things that I'd like to toss at you before our time is done. And I want to also invite for you watching or listening, and if you're in the live, you have to kind of do both because the audio only comes later. If you have a question or a comment for Mark, by all means, please leave it in the comments section and I will do my best to pass it along. I also want to encourage you to reach out to Mark. While we're doing this, I'm going to put your Facebook I'm going to put Mark's Facebook link right in the comments. There you go. So if this is in the future and you're listening to the you're listening to the replay, you won't be able to see the comments, but you'll be able to find Mark on Facebook or at markregan.ca. Harvey, thank you for your comments. Mark Harvey has said, thanks for the conversation. It's uplifting and much needed during these challenging times. I find that it's just so, I don't know that we put enough value in just sharing with each other and just sharing what's real about our experiences, and that it eases the burden that we have on ourselves when we realize that a lot of other people are going through the same kinds of thoughts and things that we are. Few things that I want to toss at you. I made a list on official No Schedule Man letterhead. If I throw the word diet at you, what immediately comes to mind? How do you react to that word, diet?
Restriction, struggle, a dead end. Always. You can't deprive yourself of the elemental things in life. You need to create a lifestyle that is sustainable. I've said it over and over and over. And diets, they are absolutely unsustainable. For every single diet out there, it's leading you to something that has a loophole or a half truth, or it's hype. Those are big in the fitness industry. I'm sorry to say, Kevin, that I work in an industry that is full of half truths and hype. And because there's no real legislation and regulation on what is healthy, what's truly healthy, people get away with all sorts of things. And because there's that sense of desperation, as we've said, you look at other people who are thinner than you look at other people who are supposedly healthier than you. I want what they have. How do I get it? In a quick fashion, as quickly as possible. So there are plenty of people out there in the health world who are more than willing to throw a diet at you. Oh, you got to cut all your carbs. Are you kidding? Carbs are elemental to every single cell you have. Our digestive system starts in our mouth. Guess what the enzymes in our mouth break down? Carbohydrate. Why? Because they want to get them to your brain as fast as possible. Your carbohydrates fuel your brain. I don't know about you, but my brain works every day really well when I give it carbohydrate. And I know there are all sorts of diets out there that say cut carbs, and they work, but they only work for a while. Because our body is not supposed to be deprived. It's not supposed to struggle with limitations. So you will get some weight loss in the form of fat, bloat, and muscle. You will create a hormonal imbalance. I teach hormones. The hormones are the regulators of our body. So I show people how to create balance with their food and their lifestyle, that the hormones work properly. Diets don't do that. Diets throw off the hormones. So you create a hormonal imbalance. And then you slow down your metabolism. So what happens with people who are on diets? They struggle physically. They get to a breaking point where physiologically your body says, no more. You're not going to trick me by cutting those carbs or cutting those calories and depriving me. And so your metabolism slows down and you start to hold on to more of that body weight. And psychologically, your brain says, enough is enough. I'm going to win. You can't do this to me anymore. And what do? You go right back to your old habits, and sometimes worse. And I'll give you an example. Keto. There's so many people promoting keto. And when you cut your carbohydrates, you're reducing, for example, plant-based keto says you can't have fruits and vegetables. Well, those are phytonutrients that fight cancer. So I'm against that. No, don't. You need those nutrients in your body. You need those carbohydrate sources in your body. But also, the research shows, as we're moving forward in the world of keto, that it has a 97% failure rate over a 5-year window. So it's unsustainable physically, it's unsustainable psychologically, it's unsustainable hormonally. And the scary part is it comes with a 20% increase in weight gain after keto. So I know there's all sorts of people out there who are living the keto lifestyle and loving it. Let's follow that long term. Are you going to be able to do that into your 70s and 80s? Is this really a sustainable lifestyle plan that's going to work for you? And it seems to work for some people really well and not for others. Well, if you have a family of children, if you're busy cooking meals, if you're doing online schooling right now, if you're currently out of work, how's keto going? It doesn't fit in the real world. So when you say diet to me, alarm bells ring. And I have so much knowledge and research to show people that don't go down that path, because you're going to come back in the future feeling even worse.
You mentioned another word a couple of different times there that that I really like, which is lifestyle. And diet and lifestyle, not to get in vocabulary wars here, but to me, they're different things. And it comes back to the idea of asking ourselves, how do I choose to feel? What kind of a life do I want to live? How do I want to go through my days and feel and function? And that's a more macro kind of a holistic view. My lifestyle, how do I want my life to work, right? As opposed to kind of a micro, well, I'm maybe going to go on a diet and then and change the way I look for whatever reason. And the reasons behind that may be very well meaning, but do you perceive that at all similar? Like an idea of a lifestyle versus just going on a diet?
It's completely lifestyle, Kevin. I teach people how to create a sustainable lifestyle. That's what I promote in my programs. I don't teach weight loss. Weight loss is just one of the many benefits that occurs.
You might need to gain weight in some cases.
I work with lots of those people. I've worked with lots of athletes. For example, teenagers who are thin, they have faster metabolisms. And what are they eating? Junk. They're not eating whole foods, not eating nourishing foods, and they don't understand how to do it. So I work with them and their parents to show them, well, here's what your body needs. And I've worked with kids who are at 17 and 18 years old who put on 15 and 20 pounds of lean muscle in 4 months. For example, OHL hockey players or other athletes trying to really get stronger and more powerful. But then again, I can work with adults. You get those adults who are in their 30s and 40s and say, I've always been that 90-pound weakling. Could you really show me how to put on lean mass? And it's a lifestyle. It is a combination of food. It's a combination of exercise. It's a combination of sleeping properly. I teach sleep strategies because all of this happens while you sleep. It doesn't happen during the workout. It doesn't happen while you're eating. It happens while you sleep. And so many people are sleep deprived and struggle with sleep patterns that are all out of whack. So I teach sleep strategies and educate people on sleep. It involves stress reduction. Right now, people are stressed, and what are they reaching for? The baked goods, the cookies, or they're sharing all of the things they are continually baking and making. And that's a process. It's a mindset, but it's also hormonal, because sleep, stress, exercise, nutrition all go hand in hand and affect hormones. And when your hormones are out of whack, you do wacky things like eat more bread than you've ever eaten in your life during COVID-19.
Yeah, I went off the leash when I went away in early February. When Caroline and I went to Cuba, you just mentioned bread, and I got triggered because I don't really eat bread. I don't have anything. It's not like a personal mission, but it just doesn't occur to me. But they had this bread there that, man, it took me a couple of weeks to get the train back on the rails after that. I've had you for a while here, and I know that we're locked down, but I still have had you for a long time. I appreciate you've been so generous with your time. Thanks to all who are watching as well. I wondered if I could ask you, Mark, about what I'll call greens powder. I've started to introduce more vegetables and fruit into my lifestyle and just swapping out some different things. So like today, my lunch was I had just chopped up a bunch of orange pepper and red pepper and cucumbers, and I had some probiotic yogurt that I had some sunflower seeds in and some things like that. And I felt full and I felt great. I had some carrots, stuff like that. But I also, because I'm becoming more interested in this stuff, now the algorithms are hunting me. And I saw something on YouTube the other day for this one guy who's got his latest, greatest green drink that has chlorella and turmeric and beets and mint and all of these wonderful sounding things that I've never heard of before that make me think, oh my gosh, if I were to have to go and like buy all those things and figure them all out, I would be broke and it would all go bad before I could ever use it. But if I could just put it in a powder, but I've never done anything like that. How much value is there to adding something like that into your lifestyle, or is that a potential trap of thinking I can just toss something in a glass or a smoothie and that I'm going to get some benefit from it?
I call it a starting point. At least people are starting to think about their health, Kevin. So they're trying to take a multivitamin, or they're trying to take a Greens Plus, as you're saying, this product that is meant to reduce inflammation and
Yeah.
eliminate free radicals and help with digestion. And taking a step back and answering this, Kevin, that's a great product to add, because all illness is caused by inflammation. The root cause of every illness, from the common cold to cancer, is inflammation in our cells. And it presents itself sometimes in dramatic ways. You talked about back pain and aches and pains and joint pain. It's inflammation in how we're fatigued and can't get out of bed, mental focus, memory, emotional challenges, right? The highs and lows. Well, if you take a look back at cellular causes of all that, it's inflammation. And a Greens Plus, something that incorporates all of the antioxidants and all of the different anti-inflammatories that are naturally in food, particularly fruits, vegetables, and plant sources, it goes a long way to helping reduce these free radicals and these cells that are broken down. It eliminates them and flushes them out of our system. They're actually oxidized. They're removed through breathing and through through our skin and our waste. And so you actually break down these toxins and these free radicals by eating those incredible, they're called phytonutrients, these amazing phytonutrients that are elementary for our health. So in fact, things like that are part of my plan. I try to not only teach people lifestyles, that let's try and improve your nutrition, let's improve your sleep and improve your stress, let's improve your exercise where you're capable, but I also recommend things that fill gaps. So Kevin, you're filling a gap there where you're finding something that's credible. The research behind it is obviously well done. It's well documented, so that's truth. It's not hype. And then you're finding a product that's filling a gap, because are you able to get a dozen servings of fruits and vegetables into your day, every color of the rainbow? I don't know a lot of people who are. I'm not. And so even in my case, we know that those nutrients are important to our cellular health and to reduce inflammation. If I can top up anything I need with a real quality supplement, then I'm going to do it. And I recommend those things to my clients. There are some fundamental ones, and there are some that are particular to individuals who may need some more vitamin D. Here we are waiting for spring to arrive. It's another cool gray day here in London, Ontario. So, hey, vitamin D is going to help you. It's going to pick you up. It's going to help with bone health, absorption of calcium, mental and emotional strength, all of those things. And we know the research behind it is valid.
I'm wondering how much of what I'll call mindset is part of what you do. And here's the context that I'm asking you that from is, suppose I do all those things. I get those nutrients into my system. I change my lifestyle and the foods that I'm eating. I'm getting exercise. I'm eating lots of fruits and vegetables and following that kind of stuff. But my thoughts are still toxic. I'm still carrying around a lot of stress from the way that I'm perceiving the world. I feel I've got a lot of blame. I've got a lot of complaint. I've got a lot of worry. I've got a lot of anxiety. But I eat incredibly and I exercise, but if I don't get my thoughts and stress from that end of things in line, can I still get well?
Obviously, you could get well physically, but all of those thoughts will have a negative impact on your progress. They'll have a negative impact on your end result, and they'll probably predict and lead to illness sooner in your life, because clearly the mental and physical relationship, those go hand in hand. I'll give you another example, your digestive health. So your brain can negatively impact your digestive health. Think about how you digest foods when you're stressed. We have ulcers, right? We have upset IBS, so that irritable bowel syndrome. And what are they all linked to? They're not linked to something going on in your gut. They're linked to something going on in your brain. So the brain-body connection can never, ever be separated. They go hand in hand. I take the perspective that once you can improve your physical health, that all those other areas of your health can absolutely improve as well. And so I give you a foundation of physical health a better relationship with food, a better relationship with your body. I'll give you an example, Kevin. I had someone reach out to me a couple months ago, a female who I'd been working with for almost a year, who runs triathlons. So you think this person's super fit. She's really healthy. She runs triathlons. Man, she looks like $1 million and she inspires people. And her message to me a couple months ago, it surprised me. I was helping her fine-tune her food. She already had the training down, but I fine-tuned her food to help her improve her running performance, improve her recovery, improve her sleep, all those areas that were physical. And yet her message to me 2 months ago was, Mark, I want to thank you so much for everything you've done for me over the past year. It wasn't only that you helped me improve my triathlon time, my swimming, my running, my biking is better than it's ever been before, but you absolutely have transformed my relationship with myself. I love myself more than I ever have before. And I that was never my intention, clearly. My intention was to improve her performance in a holistic way. And in all of that, we created a healthier mind, a healthier relationship with herself. And as she said, I now am really loved myself in a way I never have before. But hey,
Yeah,
that's a testimonial that's unprecedented. I wish I could post that as my banner on my website, really.
that sums it up, doesn't it? That's what it's all about, is giving people their life back.
Yeah.
And we're here. Let's live it well. It's a choice, a bunch of little choices that add up. And I think what you just shared speaks to that positive momentum that we were talking about earlier. Mark, I want to encourage anybody who comes across this conversation to connect with you online. You're very generous with sharing yourself, particularly on Facebook, where you're very regularly, I would say at least once a week, and you seem to have amped that up where you're doing more Facebook Lives to just offer some encouragement and share some tips and insights. So please, by all means, if you're watching or listening, look for Mark and connect with him. But aside from that, there are a lot of people that would really like to have a hand, not just maybe through this mess, and who knows even whether we're in the middle of this tunnel or whether there is light at the end for sure. But either way, we've got lives to live, and we have the choice to make, virus or no virus, of how we want to live that. For somebody that wants to reach out and connect with you, what are some of the ways that they could do that?
Well, they can go to my website. They can connect with me right through the website, markjregan.ca, and they can look at the testimonials, and they can look at the before and after pictures of just some of my clients. And again, don't look at my picture, look at their pictures, because those are the people, of course, that you can relate to and see the progress and hear their progress. And so that's one way of connecting with me. They can reach out to me at my email, mark@markjregan.com. And of course, they can call me too. So if you go to my website, the phone number is there, my email is there, and you can connect with me right through the website as well.
Imagine what your mom would think. She could see all the lives that you were helping to affect positively. That's pretty neat to think about, isn't it?
On my mother and father's gravestone, it says, "Love each other as we have loved you." There you go.
That's a pretty great way to honor somebody that means the most to you, and to pay it forward and help other people. Thanks for helping me and for being a part of this, Mark. I'm just so grateful that we've connected, and I really appreciate you and this time. And stay well. We'll be back out soaking up vitamin D in no time, I'm sure.
Absolutely. You too, Kevin. This has been a pleasure. I really appreciate you inviting me on here. This has been again, something that I just love. I'm passionate about it. And anytime I can assist people, I'm in my wheelhouse, so to speak.
Absolutely. Mark, thanks so much. It's wonderful to have you. And thank you for watching and listening. This has been episode number 105 of Journeys with the No Schedule Man. It will be archived for your access on demand whenever you want at noscheduleman.com. We will make sure that both the audio and the video is available up there. We'll put a blog post together It should be available within the next day or so. If there's anything in here that you would like to come back to that Mark has shared, I'll also make sure to have the links that he mentioned to his website and to his social pages available on there as well. While you're at the website, please do take a moment and jump on board with me via email, noscheduleman.com/email, or just click the connect page when you're on the website. And let's stay in touch, and I can let you know about more people like Mark and what they have to share on future episodes of the podcast and other things that we've got going on. If you like this and if you found it helpful, keep in mind there are 104 other episodes. So there's a lot of knowledge in this catalog of material, not because of me, but because of wonderful people like Mark who have shared so selflessly. You can subscribe for free for the audio version of the podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play Music, iHeartRadio. You can get the video and audio at YouTube and Facebook. The call signs on either one of those platforms is at No Schedule Man. It would mean a lot to me if you just took a moment and clicked subscribe or like or follow, what have you, while you're in those spots. Appreciate you being here. Thank you very much. And thanks to Mark Regan as well. On behalf of Mark, my name is Kevin Bolmer. This is Journeys with the No Schedule Man. Please take good care of yourself. Be gentle with yourself and kind to yourself, and do what you have to do to stay safe. And we'll get through this challenging time and we'll be better for it. Thanks for watching and listening. Much love, and we'll see you next time.